somebody's live streaming a Faces of Kensington video. Familiar with Kensington, Neil?
No. Is that a TV show?
No. Kensington, Philadelphia.
Oh.
That play. Face. I'll tell you about it after.
All right.
Wild stuff going. Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Stokastic.com NFL Deeper Dive Showdown Edition, baby. We got the Rams. We got the San Francisco 49ers. Should be a close game. Likely going to be a low-scoring game, but that's all right. We're breaking it all down. I'm Dave Loughran at Loughy_D on the Twitters. Hit your boy up, LOUGHY_D. Joined by, you know it, the Showdown Shaman, Neil Orfield at Player Q DFS. What's good, brother?
What a nickname! What a nickname you came up with just on the fly. That was great. Great alliteration. I've seen it. I've seen people call me that in some comments on my videos. So I'll own
That's
it. Sure.
Great. Well, yeah. I mean, hey, you've earned the name, right? You've earned the name.
Unfortunately, we're going through some uncharted terrain here. So even as the shaman, I might be a little bit lost with Tevin Coleman and Willie Snead up.
Yeah,
we'll do our best. We'll do our best.
It's tough. Yeah, the Showdown Shaman. You just it's like those ayahuasca adventures that people have out there in South America, except it's with Neil, and we're learning Showdown. Put him in a trance, man. Let's do it.
I'm gonna do my best.
Yeah, all right. It's a lot of pressure. Hey, we got almost 500 people watching already. Appreciate you guys. Best place to be for DFS content. You know it. We know it, but we can't do it without you. And huge appreciation for that. Every day of the week, you guys make our lives way easier. One simple request, though. Let's get those likes up over 100 out of the gate. We're at 66 likes already. 34 to go. If you haven't done so yet, take those at 1 second, atone for your sins, and let's drive that up as high as we can. Appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel too. Helps us greatly. As you guys already know, helps us keep the lights on around here. And if you want to join, hit join down below, get the free super chats each month, custom emojis. Look at all those badges. Look at those beautiful badges in there. And we're doing cool stuff as well for our subs right here on the channel. Boom. Over 100, Neil, already. We're in business.
Wow, you're good at this, man.
Hey, please, I deserve no credit. This goes to the people watching today.
These guys are good at this.
For sure. It's a big day for the Phillies too. I don't know if you've been paying attention to any baseball, but Phillies could clinch a playoff spot today. They'll get swept in the wild card. Yeah, sure. But
that's fun though. Fun to make the playoffs. Have a shot.
Yeah, for sure. Anyway, real happy to have you guys here. As Neil said, odd slate, but hey, everybody's gotten. This is perfect for to talk strategy before we get into the games. I always kind of want to lay the foundation for us and for everybody else because every game's different. Like yesterday was a whole lot different than today. I don't know if you could build a lineup yesterday that you would look at and actually think, hey, I like this. Didn't mean it wasn't good, but with all of those expensive players, today you have expensive players, but it's not that hard if you're captaining someone that isn't Cooper Kupp to fit kind of whatever you want, Neil.
Yeah, it's true. And we have some more inexpensive options that look viable with guys like Ben Skowronek looks pretty good. The Rams running backs, I don't love them. They're not great point per dollar plays, not going to be players I'm really targeting, but they're around 7,000. So we have a lot more kind of mid-range options to choose from in this game than we had last night. Last night was, it was interesting because we had all of the expensive chalky guys going off early. And then by the end of the game, Jody Fortson had a touchdown. Noah Gray had a touchdown. Rashad White had a touchdown. So there were a lot of pretty similar, pretty good lineups at the top last night. That was a fun slate.
Man, I was two games late on Noah Gray. That was my guy.
Oh man.
Yeah. Hey, those Kansas City Chiefs do that weird. Didn't he take a direct snap?
He did. Yep.
Yeah.
That was wild.
Yeah. So weird stuff happens. When you have Kyle Juszczyk on a showdown slate, weird stuff can really happen.
That's right. So, I mean, he catches a pass occasionally. He's always live to vulture a touchdown. He's a fun player.
He broke a showdown slate last year.
Did he? Was it just one touchdown, or
it was a touchdown? But he had 5 for 38 receiving or something.
Okay, I thought so. Yeah, he had that one crazy receiving game.
I think what happened was Elijah Mitchell was hurt. and then Jeff Wilson got hurt in game, and everyone you would have thought they'd go to Sermon, or they were both out and everybody played Sermon, but Shanahan just despised the guy for some reason, and it ended up being Juszczyk. So, like you said, though, they just brought what was it, Tevin Coleman and Willie Snead up from the practice squad?
Yep, some old names, old familiar names.
Tevin Coleman's gotten around. Yeah, he has. But all right, you ready to do this?
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. All right. Before we do, 3 free days of Stokastic. I want you guys to know this, because if you want to get access to the tools, do it now. Take advantage of it. You get 3 free days of all of our NFL plus Stokastic plus content. So that's Showdown too. The top plays tool, the ownership, the projections, the boom bust tool, all of our tools, the lineup generator, the lineup builder for, those of you who are hand builders and running only a few lineups. All of that stuff is huge. 3 free days. 3 free days, no strings attached. You don't have to pay a thing. And this would be a good time to do it. So check it out if you'd like. And if you want 1 week of Stokastic plus Platinum, every sport, every single sport on the site, pretty much every DFS sport out there, go ahead and use the promo code. It's Showdown DD, right, Jordan? Showdown DD, all one word, all caps, Showdown DD when you check out. We can throw the link in there as well. That's everything on the site, everything. Of course, not Fantasy Cruncher. We don't own Fantasy Cruncher, but you can get that for half off, 50% of what it normally is, half off, Stokastic plus Platinum, every single sport. And you guys know, and we can do the Hall of Fame segment. I don't know if we're doing it today or live before lock is, but I can assure you, been some huge wins out there lately, all using these tools. We'd love to have you part of the family. Oh, our Discord too, and our betting Discord's all in there on top of that. Let's do it, Neil. All right, Rams, 2-point dogs here. Should be a close game. These teams always play pretty closely. Actually met in the championship round last year. But the first question I have, it's not Cooper Kupp. It's not Matthew Stafford. We'll get to all of that. But this backfield consisting of Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson. Akers has been the guy getting the majority of work lately, even though they both played 50% of snaps last week. How do you break this down? And what do you make of these leverage scores we're seeing on our top plays tool for Akers and for Henderson?
We should add Malcolm Brown was also called up from the practice squad tonight. So we have a third running back theoretically in the mix tonight in Malcolm Brown. I don't know how much he's going to play. That's the weird thing about this slate is we have all these guys being called up who have not been playing. Sometimes you see these guys get called up and out of nowhere, they're getting significant playing time. Sometimes it's just, to have backups available. I'm not expecting Malcolm Brown to get a ton of action tonight, but he might be in play as well.
He knows the system. He was there all of 2017 through 2020.
I know. And he had some vulture games where he was the guy who scored 3 touchdowns. Didn't he score like 3 touchdowns in week 1 of like 2020?
He had that huge, and he was also their third down back for most of that season. Yeah.
So the threat is real, I guess. So both, we'll start with Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson. They look pretty similar in the tools, right? They both have negative leverage scores. They're both getting about 16% ownership with, we have Akers at 9% optimal, Henderson at 11% optimal. Their projections are almost identical. The difference in the optimal rate is because of Akers is a little bit more expensive than Darrell Henderson. There's been some rumblings that maybe Cam Akers takes on more of a role. We saw Darrell Henderson in the first game of the year was the starter and looked like he was kind of taking over, and maybe Cam Akers has taken on more of a role, but they both played 24 snaps in the last game. So I don't know if there is really anything to that. If he is taking on more of a role, maybe he just had more carries, but neither of them are my favorite plays on the slate. I guess I'll put it like that. 16% ownership though is low enough that, you got to have some interest. Either of these guys is live to put up 50 and a touchdown, and that might be enough to put up the $7,000 price tag. Maybe add a few receptions in there. They could put up a big enough score to potentially pay off this price tag, but they're certainly not my favorite options on this slate. They're kind of, I'll play some because they're not getting a ton of ownership. I'm not super confident in either of them against this 49ers defense. Kind of meh. Do you have any different opinion there?
No, man. Chat was trying to excoriate me this morning when I said I just don't think Cam Akers is very good. People were not happy. People understand. It's not a personal attack. If we have differences of opinion, that's a good thing, right? But I think Cam Akers is fine. I think he's fine, but I don't look at him as an elite running back. And of course, he's dealt with injuries. He's dealt with timeshares. It'd be interesting to see what he could do healthy with with a lot of work and good matchups. This isn't a very good matchup though either. You know, San Francisco is towards the top of the league in both run defense DVOA and pass defense DVOA. They've been very good, and DVOA is accounting for it's you know, matchups are account of. It's not just being like, oh well, it's not just yards per game or you know, yards per attempt.
Right.
I don't know. I think with Akers and Henderson, because of their lack of involvement in the passing game, it's very, very scarce involvement in the passing game. You'll 100% need a touchdown from one of these guys if they're going to be in the optimal, unless they have an insane outlier game, Neil. I'm not sure how they get there without scoring. And I'm not saying they can't, but they'll definitely need to score today.
Yeah, exactly right. I don't see either of these guys putting up. I mean, they theoretically 100 yards is certainly within the range of outcomes, but I think it's pretty unlikely, as long as they're splitting the backfield in a matchup with the Niners, that they're going to put up 100 yards without scoring a touchdown. So it's kind of touchdown or bust with these guys, and it is a tough matchup. It wouldn't be surprising to see either of them score a touchdown. It also wouldn't be that surprising to see Malcolm Brown come in and vulture a touchdown from them. So I don't really know. I don't have a strong lean one way or the other. I think the 16% ownership, honestly, it seems low, but it also it feels about right for these guys. I mean, it feels even maybe a little bit, as our tools say, it might be a little bit high, given that it is a tough matchup. They're splitting carries. Maybe one of them takes over. Maybe there's really a hot hand approach that will take over at some point, but so far we just haven't seen that. It's been like they split downs, they split series. They'll go Cam Akers one series, Darrell Henderson the next series, and end up with pretty even usage. So I don't know. It's just not a spot, not one of my favorite spots on the slate. I'll say that.
I think the hot hand approach is probably a little bit more live than you do, but
do you?
Yeah, but I don't know who it's going to be. You're really just guessing. And in large field tournaments, I get that. But, you know, you think about it, Cam Akers in week one got the first couple carries, got the first drive, and then didn't see the field again until like the fourth quarter. And then he's seen 27 carries over the last two games. Darrell Henderson's seen, 14? So, yeah, I think it could go one of either way, like 12-4 to Akers last game. I don't know. It makes it difficult. I'll tell you something else, though. We're talking Allen Robinson. I'm actually, I have a bet on Allen Robinson anytime touchdown today, which most people would go, that's odd. But get this. He only has 12 targets on the season, right? Not great. Half of them are in the red zone. 4 of the 12 are inside the 10, a third of them, and 3 of the 12 are inside the 5. So goal line targets. That's really interesting to me that Matthew Stafford hasn't had a ton of interest in targeting him in between the 20s, but then they get to the red zone and he's looked Allen Robinson's way as much as he's looked at Cooper Kupp this season. I mean, Cooper Kupp has 6 red zone targets this season. Allen Robinson has 6 red zone targets as well through 3 games. So yeah. There's something there that kind of intrigues me. On BetMGM, actually, Allen Robinson has 4 inside the 5. Wow. At BetMGM, it's plus 150. On DraftKings,
definitely a good bet.
Yeah. Well, hold on. Listen to this. On DraftKings, it's plus 245. On FanDuel, it's plus 310.
Ooh. All right.
So I'll take some shots, Neil.
Yeah. I mean, it's a low scoring game, so I guess that kind of explains that low.
Yep. Tough matchup.
That kind of number. But yeah, I mean, if he's going to get the red zone looks, and he's certainly been getting the red zone looks, he's been running plenty of routes. He's only got 12 targets, but you know, the routes are there. The red zone looks are there, and he's only 6,200. So I think I like the bet, and I like him for DFS too. I think that he is certainly live for a blow up game one of these weeks. Obviously it's not my favorite matchup in the world, but he's a talented enough receiver. The price is right. The opportunity is right. So I could see it happening in this game. Yeah.
That's what I was going to ask you. How does it, because anytime touchdown score is a whole lot different than a DFS, like an optimal DFS play, because he could have 2 receptions for 20 yards and one of them's a touchdown, given his usage in the red zone. How does he translate for DFS tonight at his price point?
So because it's a low scoring game, I think even 2 receptions for 20 yards and a touchdown is theoretically live to be in the optimal, not in the captain spot, but in a flex spot. It could happen that would be optimal even at this price tag. In a really high scoring game, that obviously would not get it done. But I think at 6,200 in a game that could be like, 13-10 or something, that would be enough. So I like Allen Robinson tonight. I think, you have to factor in kind of the the game itself. When you think about, does he have enough upside? I think he has enough upside for this game. So I think that Allen Robinson is a pretty solid play tonight. And now I'm just going to look in the boom bust tool to see if so it looks like we've got him at 24.2% projected ownership, optimal 26.6% of the time. We've got him in the optimal in the captain spot 3.5% of the time, owned in the captain spot 3.5% of the time. So pretty solid overall, some positive leverage there in the utility spot. I just think the price is right and the opportunities have been there. He hasn't been getting targets, but he's been running the routes. And as you say, getting those opportunities in the red zone. So I think Allen Robinson is certainly in play and somebody who's going to be a big part of my lineups tonight.
Interesting. Okay. What about a guy in Higbee who has a 24% target share, second highest on the team by far? Robinson has a lower target share than Ben Skowronek by 1% this year. So that can't last. But Higbee's just done a lot after the catch. He has 130 yards after the catch. I mentioned it this morning. 8.2 yards after the catch per reception. His ADOT's only 3.9, but the guy's creating a lot after he catches the football, which we see a lot of good tight ends do. I personally like that price, because we saw Mike Gesicki, who is the same price or higher price than him last week. And Mike Gesicki is not nearly as involved as somebody like Tyler Higbee. Where do you land on someone like him today?
Yeah. It's funny. 2 years ago, we saw Tyler Higbee blow up when Gerald Everett was out. He was suddenly great. And then last year, we expected that to continue, and then it just didn't. And it seems like he's back on the track he was 2 years ago. And he's just very involved in the offense, one of the team leaders in terms of routes run and targets. And he's only 5,200 tonight. So he looks like one of the best plays on the board, according to any of our metrics, coming in at 7.2% owned in the captain spot, optimal in the captain spot, 10.6% of the time. And in the utility spot, owned 29.4% of the time, optimal 36.5% of the time. So we've got a positive leverage in both spots. Just the opportunities have been there, and the price doesn't really account for it at a $5,200 salary. So yeah, I like Tyler Higbee quite a bit tonight.
Yeah. Speaking more on what you said, he has the highest leverage score on the slate by 2%. He has a 10% leverage score in our top plays tool.
Yeah. And that makes sense. He's just very involved. And for some reason, they did not account for his involvement when making the salaries here. So it looks great tonight.
Yeah. Apparently they didn't. Kind of crazy, but here we are. All right. Cooper Kupp. I don't ask the obvious question here, Neil, but more so for someone like yourself that has done extraordinarily well getting good leverage spots right, or just knowing what they should be. Kupp's obviously the highest projected player. His top play probability. This isn't our top play. So if you took advantage of the 3 free days, or you just used the Showdown DD promo, you can go under the NFL tab and go to premium data. You'll see that under the top Showdown and single game data. But his top play probability is 43% tonight.
And he's 1,200. He's 1,200 in the flex spot, 1,800 in the optimal spot. Just a massive price tag, and he's worth it. I mean, he's Cooper Kupp. We've got him a little bit over owned in the captain spot, just because, as I said, 1,800 in that captain spot. It's hard to be optimal in the captain spot when you cost that much. It just really limits what you can do with the rest of your lineup. But we still have him optimal in the captain spot 16.3% of the time. A little bit of negative leverage relative to the 18.8% ownership we've got him at in the captain spot, but not that massively negative in terms of leverage for captain spot. And then in the utility spot, we've got him owned 54% of the time, optimal 57% of the time. So still some positive leverage there, even at the $1,200 price tag for Cooper Kupp. And it makes sense. He's just one of those players who seems to get it done just about every week. I mean, his floor game is like 20 fantasy points. It's been ridiculous. So yeah, Cooper Kupp is a guy who's going to be a big part of all, he's not going to be in all of my lineups tonight, but I'm probably going to be pretty close to the field.
There's a lot of people that know this, that watch the show, that are very, very, very much aware of a lot of the terminology we'll use, especially when referring to the tools.
Sure.
Some people are new though, and they might look at these tools and be like, why does he have 18.6% captain ownership? Or sorry, optimal captain, 14% optimal captain. But I guess what I'm getting at is when it comes to salary, right? Just because they're the highest projected to be the optimal captain doesn't always mean that they're projected to be the best play in the captain spot. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so we see some negative leverage here. So This is our single game tool. It's essentially the single game equivalent of the boom bust tool. And what it's showing us is the results of 10,000 simulations run by the Stokastic tools team. And in those simulations, it spits out what is the optimal lineup based on how players scored in each simulation. So 10,000 times. And of those 10,000 times, he was the optimal captain 14.1% of the time. So 14.1% of the time, the lineup that was optimal for that slate, he was the captain, despite having an $1,800 price tag at captain. But we got him. I think the ownership is kind of separate from the simulation. So we have him at 18.6% ownership in the captain spot, just based on a lot of different factors. That's what we expect his ownership to be in the captain spot. And then the sims are run separately from the ownership. So we see that we've got him owned almost 19%, and then optimal based on the sims 14%. So basically what that tells me is he's a little bit over owned in the captain spot, a little bit of negative leverage there. And it's not because we're not expecting to put up a massive score. It's just because of that price being prohibitive. Being 1,800, you can only fit in, one, maybe two more studs into your lineup. And then you're gonna have to have some real junk at the bottom. So it makes it a little bit tough. Whereas other guys, no, we're not expecting Tyler Higbee to have a better game than Cooper Kupp. And actually Cooper Kupp is still the optimal captain the most of anybody, so it's a little bit harder to make that point. But we've got other players that are close, even though we don't expect them to put up nearly the same score, just because their price tags allow you to fit in more studs in the rest of your lineup.
Absolutely, yeah, solid explanation. And someone asked, El Negro Loco, appreciate you, man. Just gifted 10 subscription, 10 memberships here.
What a guy!
He's the man of the people now.
Yeah, he is.
Someone asked, can you captain, or he said, I kind of, maybe it was a statement, I don't know, something about captaining a tight end. I said on the strategy show with Alex Brown and Matt Gajewski today, I like the idea of captaining someone like Higbee. I mean, we can talk about Kittle once we get to the Niners, but I have no problem captaining Higbee, especially in a low scoring game with two good defenses. Because if he goes 6 for 70 and a touchdown, and you're able to load up elsewhere, I think that makes sense. And his leverage score would suggest that I'm not too far off base there.
They're two of our most positively leveraged players in the captain spot. So yeah, I think you can certainly go to a tight end, and these price tags, you don't need 30 fantasy points out of them for them to be optimal. They just allow you to do more with the rest of your lineup.
What do you want to do on some of these lesser popular options or lesser involved options like Ben Skoranek? Is that somebody that is going to just by default come into the picture for you today?
Yeah, I think Ben Skoranek is very much in play for me today, actually. We've got him in the captain spot, optimal 2.5% of the time. Sorry, optimal 3.6% of the time, owned 2.5% of the time. So a little bit of positive leverage there. And then the utility spot as well, owned 17.7% of the time, optimal 19.2% of the time. And he's up there with the leaders in terms of routes run so far this year. We've got Skoranek, he's run 98 routes so far this year. He is just 2 behind Higbee. He's a little bit behind Robinson and Kupp, but 98 routes run is nothing to sneeze at. 13 targets. He's actually ahead of Allen Robinson in targets so far this year. So he's been very involved, and he's only 4,400. Got to get back to that page. Something around there though. He's super cheap for the amount of involvement he's had so far this year. If the involvement is still there, he's just too cheap for the opportunities he's had. So I like Ben Skoranek quite a bit, actually.
Yeah. Hawkins season. I saw that super chat and I missed your one from earlier. Let me hit that. He said, Hawkins season, by the way, he's very stoked about this TJ Hawkinson game yesterday. Sure. Rightfully so.
Yeah.
That I'm making a lineup with 6 tight ends. Is that too many? No, it's not enough.
It's too few.
You had 7. Go ahead.
I said it's too few. I'm disagreeing with you.
Yeah, right. Yeah, if you had 7 roster spots, I think you could fit another tight end in there for sure. Good luck. You're taking it down today. Hawkins season again, tight end smash, just like Hawk smash. Thanks for the super chats. We had one more here. Teddy, I'm building one single entry lineup on FanDuel. Now, granted, FanDuel's roster structure is way different than DraftKings because you're not paying 1.5 times salary. I'm building one single entry lineup on FanDuel. Is having Kupp in the MVP spot too chalky? Thanks, guys.
No, it's not. It's not too chalky. I mean, it is slight negative leverage there, but on FanDuel, you just need the highest scoring player to be in the MVP spot because there's no multiplier for your salary. So we've got him a little bit over on. We've got him in the captain spot, 19% projected ownership, optimal 15% of the time. So some negative leverage there, but it's not massive negative leverage. I don't think it's a mistake to put Kupp there. It's not full point per reception too, so that hurts Kupp a little bit, makes it a little bit more likely that the quarterback gets in there at an MVP spot, but he's Cooper Kupp. I mean, if he puts up 130 yards and 2 touchdowns, nobody's going to be surprised. So I wouldn't mind eating that chalk. I don't think it's a bad decision. No,
of course not. El Negro Loco, Lavi, who wins tonight? This is a tough game. I put a little reduced wager here. I'm not going crazy, but on the Rams money line plus money, I'll take that because I think it's super close, and Trent Williams out, that could make a significant difference. But these are 2 good teams, 2 good defenses. I would assume, Neil, that you'd be very evenly divided. Everybody would be evenly divided on who wins this game. And from the comments on my Odd Shopper video that I did for this game, Odd Shopper YouTube channel, that was the case. It was basically 50-50 down the middle.
Yeah, I've got no read on who's going to win this game. It's pretty even here.
All right. Where are we at? Oh, hey, how about this? Defense and kicker. Could this be one of those games where kickers just are really important?
It could be. I mean, it could be a low scoring game where we get, 3 field goals from one of the kickers and they become optimal. I think they're certainly in play. We've got Matt Gay at 1% ownership in the captain spot, optimal 2.1% of the time. So we were asked the other day, is it okay to play kicker in captain? We said yes, and the kicker ended up being captain. So felt good about that, although I didn't have anything near what the winning lineup was, so it didn't actually work out for me.
That was a crazy lineup, yeah.
That was a crazy. It was also duplicated 130 times, which my lineups, that's my goal is to avoid that. So those are slates that I'm just not going to win. But in the utility spot as well, we've got Matt Gay projected for 15.8% ownership, 17.6% optimal. He looks very solid at 3,800. The price is right, and this is expected to be a low scoring game. So if it turns into a field goal fest, these kickers are going to be needed. And then Robbie Gould, I mean, same kind of thing. We've got him projected for 2% ownership in the captain spot, 4.2% optimal. So one of our more positively leveraged plays in the captain spot. And then same thing in the utility spot, 17% ownership, 18% optimal. Looks pretty good. Kickers are guys I'm probably not going to be massively overweight or underweight to the field. I don't really have a strong feeling about whether this does turn into a field goal fest, but they're certainly in play in a low scoring projected game.
Someone asked about Tutu Atwell. All right. Well,
Go ahead. It's hard. It's tough. I don't know what to make of Tutu Atwell. He's just not been nearly as involved as Ben Skowronek. He's run 10 routes so far this year. He's had two targets so far this year on 10 routes run. Now, if the game goes into garbage time, is that Tutu Atwell time? Could they just want to get him more involved in his second year? It could happen at any time. So I don't hate the play. Assuming he's active, I think Tutu Atwell is somebody that I will be considering. I guess we have inactive, so I should go see if there's anything weird going on there.
And honestly, I don't. This would be a tough game to go into blowout mode with how evenly matched these teams are. But anything can happen. This is the one thing I'll say. And if you're looking to bottom of the barrel it, right, dumpster dive here, one of the 2 targets was a 51-yard bomb downfield.
Right.
So I'd rather have that than a guy that might get 1 or 2 targets with an 8 out of 5.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. Tutu Atwell is a guy who, he's going to be a bomb threat at some point. He's going to be a guy who's going to have a potential 50-yarder. As you said, it could happen any moment. So I don't hate Tutu Atwell. What do we have his ownership at? I feel like it's going to be fairly low here, but let me just.
Got to be in the basement, right?
Yeah, we've got him at 2.1% ownership in the util spot, 0% in the captain spot. And actually, we have negative leverage on him in the util spot at 2.1% ownership, optimal 0.6% of the time. But honestly, you got to find some of these guys. I'm okay eating that, especially if you're leaving some salary on the table. He's a great guy to leave some salary on the table. If you have Tutu Atwell in your lineup, a lot of people who play him are going to have him in there to allow you to play all the studs. They're going to want to play the studs. They're going to say, I guess $200 I can play Tutu Atwell. I would leave some salary on the table if you are playing Tutu Atwell, just so that you can get unique really quickly by playing Tutu Atwell in a lineup that does not use all the salary.
That's a good call. Yeah, you're right. Because almost all that ownership is going to be in lineups where they're jamming studs.
Kupp, Stafford.
Great point. Yeah. And I don't think you have to get that much crazier, right? Like a 1v1 swap with one of the top tier guys to one of the mid-range guys where you're opening up 2 or 3K is probably enough to at least avoid chopping with a ton of people, right?
Yeah, exactly. You don't need to go for complete unique, but I want to be, under 15 duplicates in my lineups generally.
Right.
And
Gotcha.
yeah. So you don't need to get too crazy.
But yeah, hey, if people are going to play use check, and I know he's not getting a lot of ownership, but I see a ton of talk about it in chat. Tutu Atwell is not that much different. It's just one of them could dive in at the goal line. The other one could get a deep opportunity. With Tutu Atwell, you're hoping for a target that is deep downfield and caught for a touchdown. But
yeah, exactly.
We've seen crazier shit happen all the time.
I mean, it's certainly live. It could happen. There's also a very real chance that he scores 0 fantasy points today. It's probably the likeliest outcome. It's probably 0 fantasy points. It's just when he hits, he's going to win you all the money potentially. I mean, you're going to be limited to a very small field of people who have him. So he's certainly in play. And then I guess we need to at least mention, what's the name here? I just lost it. Brandon Powell is in play. He's run 11 routes this year. He's had 5 targets. He's not a great option. He's kind of you probably need a touchdown. He's not going to do much else, but he's in play also in kind of the same vein as Tutu Atwell. We do have him pretty severely overowned. We've got Brandon Powell at 5.7% ownership, optimal 0.9% of the time in the util spot, but you got to take some of those shots to really take down these tournaments without having a lot of dupes. So I might have some Brandon Powell in my lineups too. I mean, I probably will have some Brandon Powell. It's tougher though. He is 3,000 too, so a little bit harder to pay off that price tag. He really needs a touchdown, but I'll take a few shots there.
You know what's unfair? He has a negative 26. So on the season, he has 2 rushing attempts for negative 23 yards. Like that process. Neil. Yeah, that's what I thought. I knew you didn't hear that, right?
Brandon Powell?
Yeah, he has 2 rushing attempts for negative 23 yards. Now,
that's not great.
Well, in week 2, this is what I said. It wasn't fair.
Yeah.
Week 2, he had a negative 26-yard rush on his only rushing attempt. It was when they went to ice the game and ran backwards to take a safety. So to run the clock out.
Yeah.
Right. So they entrusted Powell with that. So he executed it. They took a safety, game's over, clock runs out. But now he's credited with a negative 26-yard rushing attempt, which is just hilarious to look at.
That is really funny. We need to mention Tutu Atwell is inactive in this game. So do not play Tutu Atwell today.
Oh, all right. Well, that works.
Thank you, Ron, for pointing that out. I had missed that. I had actually searched Rams inactives, but hadn't found it for this game yet. It looks like Tutu Atwell is the only relevant player who's going to be inactive tonight. So yeah, don't play Tutu Atwell.
Thank you for that.
That solves that. Yeah. Thank you.
I told you.
El Negro Loco.
I told you the viewers keep us afloat, Neil.
This was Ron. This is El Negro Loco, the news god.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. El Negro Loco is always.
I mean, other people also pointed out. Yeah, we got a lot of great people in the chat too.
We got live before live coming up after this. Don't go anywhere. Matt Gajewski, Matt Savoca. I don't think it's unrealistic that we hit 500 likes. We're about halfway there.
Let's do it.
And halfway through the show. I actually think with almost 1,900, I think it's doable.
Yeah, no, I think so too. I think that I think we should get there. We should get to 500 likes. We're probably not going to get to 90,000 subscribers today, like we did the last show I did with Greg, where we got to 80,000. But
yeah, you guys
we can get to 500 likes.
Yeah, I think it's doable. So that 282 already. If we can get there, we can get there. Show some love. All right, appreciate you guys. And if you hate this show, hit the dislike button twice. Let's go with. I can never. You got to tell me how to pronounce your name, man, so I don't butcher because you've been super chatting, and I appreciate that. Gakel, A.
Oh, is it not Jorge Jacome? I've always called him Jorge
Jacome. I can read, Neil. I just can't pronounce.
Oh, we're talking about a different super chat.
Yeah, yes. If I was pronouncing Jorge Gakel, we'd have issues.
I thought you were pronouncing the last name. I was like, and I thought that somebody had read it out to you. So you knew it. I just didn't know. Okay.
No. You're like, who's this idiot I'm doing a show with? What? That doesn't help because I completely forget the first way. Gackle? Okay. All right. We'll go with Gackle. FanDuel Cast, thoughts on playing Kupp and Samuel with no quarterbacks, counting on a low-scoring game where targets are concentrated and on few players plus a kicker.
Thoughts on playing Kupp and Samuel with no QBs. Yeah, I don't hate that at all.
I kind of love it in low-scoring games.
Yeah, exactly. You're getting all those PPR points. The quarterbacks are not getting points for those PPR. So yeah, I think that's certainly in play. Even, I mean, it's FanDuel. Oh, FanDuel cash.
Oh,
Uh
that's a little,
that's a
that
little bit
throws
of
a
a different
wrench into the
question.
works.
All right, let me. So I don't typically play. I mean, I don't play any cash, but let me think about where I would go in FanDuel cash. Um, Kupp, Debo. Man, that's really tough.
I'll come back to you, Neil.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Just got opinion. You know, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, I would say it's fine. I think it's probably fine because Debo, I mean, Kupp is the top projected play on the slate. Debo saves you a little bit of salary from those quarterbacks. Typically you're just looking for the likeliest outcome in cash games. So it's a little bit tough for me to really say that that's the right approach. It kind of depends on the rest of your lineup. But if it allows you to get to a lineup that you like, I think it's probably in play. I'm usually inclined to go to quarterbacks. If I were playing FanDuel cash in general, I'd be inclined to play quarterbacks, but it does. I mean, you can't play all four. So if Kupp and Debo allow you to get to some other players that you like, I think that it's maybe in play.
All right, we got to rip through these super chats. Jorge, appreciate you, man. Or Gacko. Who would you rather be at the field or over the field today from quarterbacks? So Neil, just real quick, Garoppolo or Stafford, is there one that you'd rather be, over the field on or below the field?
I think that it's probably Stafford for me. Actually, Garoppolo looks a lot better in the tool, so maybe I'll go back on that. I guess it probably is. Garoppolo is the one that actually has positive leverage here, both in the captain spot and the utility spot. So I guess it's pretty easy Garoppolo for me.
All right, and hey, Jay Bravo, what's up, man? He says, Dave, Neil, good evening, gents. It's been a while. Yes, it has. Remember you, for sure. When I roster a quarterback in the MVP, how many? Okay, these are questions. These are good because this can help everybody. In the MVP, how many receivers from the same team are you looking to get to, and who do you prefer to run it back with from the other side? Do you have a hard and fast rule for that, or not at all?
I don't really have a hard and fast rule. I think that if I have a quarterback so he's saying MVP, so I'm assuming FanDuel, but I think either site, my preference would be probably two, maybe three in the utility spots. It's pretty tough, especially on DraftKings. And I don't know if he means MVP and FanDuel, people kind of use these interchangeably. On DraftKings in particular, I prefer to have at least two because on every play, the pass catcher is scoring more points than the quarterback on both FanDuel and DraftKings. You just get the pass catcher gets more points per touchdown, per yard, and also they get a PPR bonus. So it's hard for the quarterback to be optimal in the MVP or the captain spot if they're not spreading the ball around, because if they're concentrated to one pass catcher, that pass catcher is going to outscore them and likely be optimal. So in general, I would say two on either side, at least two.
Okay. And one sip reviews, 100% chance Atwell scores 0 tonight. Lock it in, pick of the week. Yeah, you're right. That's why we have News God here to help us out when we fuck up. All right, let's go on to the other side of this one. Still got plenty of time here. Good 20 minutes before we flip the page. And hey, no house advantage. You guys tried them out yet? No? You should. I know a lot of you guys already have, but if you haven't, they're crushing it right now. The contests are awesome. And they just bumped up the first match deposit bonus to $50. If you haven't done so yet, use the link in the description, or Jordan, you can throw one in chat for me, please. Take advantage of that where you've got very cool contests. You're playing against the field as you would at DraftKings, FanDuel, Yahoo, any of those other sites. Except in this case, there's no salary. You're building lineups based on overs and unders on player props. No juice on the props, just over, under. Say there's a prop you really like, right? You put it at the top of your lineup. It gets the most points. Same thing all the way down. The one at the bottom of your lineup gets the fewest points. And Neil also mentioned to me too that they have basically like a built-in optimizer that you can use for MME for multi-entering, which is really cool in itself. They have football, baseball, basketball, hockey, golf, NASCAR, UFC, all that. You also can test your skills against the house, 20 extra entry if you hit all of your picks. Big prize pools, contests are getting bigger, and there has been some overlay on top of that in some of these pick'em contests. So check it out. And if you're going to do so, right, if you decide you want to do it, and you want to use the link, get the $50 first match deposit bonus, take advantage of our free No House Advantage tools over at Stokastic, the NFL lineup generator, the projections for NHA, Oddshopper.com, which is totally free. That's how you're going to get an edge here. These props are static. They don't change throughout the day. That's where you get an edge and you start to win some money. So check it out, nohouseadvantage.com. And you got the app store, Google Play Store, wherever it is. Links in the description and in the chat. All right. Let's talk about the Niners here. We'll kick it off with the backfield as well. Oh, last question. Matthew Stafford, we talked about it in a roundabout way. Quick thoughts on Stafford, just how you're playing that today.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably, again, going to be fairly close to the field. We've got him owned in the captain spot 7.6% of the time, optimal 5.7% of the time in the captain spot. And then the utility spot owned 40% of the time, optimal 41% of the time. I'm probably going to be pretty close to the field on Stafford. I think he's certainly in play. I also saw somebody in chat just mentioned, asked if Lance McCutcheon is active. Lance McCutcheon does appear to be active tonight. He's not on the inactives list. I don't see any news suggesting that he's, on the practice squad or anything right now. So as far as I can tell, Lance McCutcheon is active tonight, and maybe he's the guy that replaces Tutu as somebody that you could consider playing. I don't think I like him as much as I would have liked Tutu, but maybe he's in play as a long shot dart throw.
Yeah, they've got a bunch of guys that just haven't even played a snap this season or have played one snap. Jacob Harris, Lance McCutcheon.
Well, McCutcheon's been inactive a few times. So the fact that he's active makes me think that he's at least got a shot to play a little bit.
It is interesting. All right. Let's hit on. Did we get all these super chats? I got them all right, Jordan. We good? All right. Appreciate that. Let's talk about the Niners. 2-point favorites, 22-point implied total. So 2 low totals here for obvious reasons. Let's start with Jeff Wilson, because you have Eli Mitchell's been out, but then you also have Davis Prince, who's out as well, which means that you're looking at a situation where you have Tevin Coleman and then what the hell is his name?
Jordan Mason is active.
Thank you, Mason. But Wilson has been one of those guys in the past that, when given opportunities, gets a lot of work, and we've seen it before. He played 73% of snaps last week, which is a lot.
Yeah, I mean, Wilson, but I think he only had 12 carries in the game or something like that. He's also dealing with Debo. He's got Kyle Juszczyk. So he's got a lot of players kind of cutting into his workload a little bit, but I think Wilson's certainly a solid enough play. He's going to be a part of my lineups for sure. We've got him in the captain spot, 7% projected ownership, optimal 4.8% of the time. In the utility spot, projected for 32.8% ownership, optimal 35% of the time. So he looks fine. The 8,200 price tag. I think that I'll have Jeff Wilson. My guess is I'll end up being a little bit under the field, just because I don't feel that strongly about Jeff Wilson. If the field is going to get to him at 42, what do we got him at? No, I guess we've got him right around 40% projected ownership. My guess is I'll be a little bit under the field on Jeff Wilson in favor of some of the other studs, but I think that he's in play. He's probably going to be the lead back for the Niners. I just don't know how much work the lead back for the Niners gets. So that's my only hesitation there. He could be the lead back with 10 carries. And is that going to do it against the Rams? They're not the best defense, but they're also not they're a pretty solid defense. So it's not my favorite spot in the world, but somebody I'll probably get maybe just a little bit under the field there.
Okay. Makes sense. Yeah, it's an odd spot. You're right. 12 carries last game. Odd game. Very odd game.
Yeah.
That 11-10 game. But 15 total touches. He had 3 for 31 receiving. I don't know, man. It's Debo for sure, right? Debo is going to get his 4 to 6 carries, every game. But Jordan Mason played 5 snaps, had 1 attempt last game. So what I mean by this is, it's hard in so many words, is basically outside of Debo, there wasn't anyone else getting carries last game, and it's not a rushing quarterback. So it's kind of speaks to what you were saying, that we don't really know what the volume is going to be, but if they go heavy rushing, it's probably going to be a large majority Jeff Wilson.
Probably. But we also didn't have Tevin Coleman last game. So that is another wrinkle in it. I know, but he's active and they could theoretically use him. I mean, I agree with you. It's likely if they're rushing a lot, it's going to be Debo and Jeff Wilson. So he's a fine play. He's certainly a solid play. I wrote an article today. I listed like 8 or 9 studs. He's listed in the studs column. He's a guy who projects very well for his price tag. So I think he's certainly in play. He's just not my favorite play of the spend up options. As I said, I'm going to be probably a little bit under the field. I'm not going to have like below 10% of Jeff Wilson. I'm probably going to have maybe 20 to 30% Jeff Wilson and be fine with that in 150 lineups. He wouldn't make it into probably my first couple lineups. If I had 5 lineups, I'll have Jeff Wilson in a lineup. I think he's a fine play. He's just not like somebody that really stands out to me one way or the other. Who knows? Maybe Jordan Mason keeps the amount that he played the last game and Tevin Coleman eats in a little bit to Jeff Wilson. We don't know for sure how Tevin Coleman is going to factor in here tonight, but I agree with you. By far, the most likely scenario is it's going to be Jeff Wilson, the number 1 rusher. Debo is going to eat into those rushes, and then probably not much from the other guys.
Yeah, and look, I'll defer to you on this one for sure, because it's not like I'm enamored with Jeff Wilson, but it is one of those spots where all I'm saying is it wouldn't shock me if he ends up getting a lot of work in this game. Tevin Coleman's another guy that has familiarity with the system, though, so maybe he gets third down work. I say he stinks, and I'm not totally wrong on that. I mean, he couldn't get any opportunities in New York with the Jets last year, and that was with coaches that brought him over from San Francisco to begin with. But who knows? Maybe Shanahan wants to use him. Do you want to use Kyle?
I don't think you should be deferring to me on this. I don't think anybody knows. That's really my ultimate point is none of us really know how this is going to break down tonight. It's a really volatile situation. But I think you and I are in agreement that the most likely scenario is that Jeff Wilson leads the running backs. It's just a matter of are they going to be rushing it enough that he's going to get the volume he needs, and is he going to score a touchdown? And we just don't know.
Absolutely. And hey, Rams have kind of been a pass funnel defense this year. I don't know if that holds up, but their secondary has not looked great. Their run defense is fantastic once again. What about Kyle Juszczyk? I said I'd stay in the backfield, and then we'll work through these pass catchers.
Yeah, Kyle Juszczyk is certainly in play. He's, as I've said, he's always live to vulture a touchdown. Wouldn't surprise anybody. And we've seen the game where he had a blow up reception spot. So I guess that is within the range of outcome. I think he's been targeted 4 times and had 2 carries so far this year. So certainly not a high volume player, not a guy. And now we have an extra running back in the mix, but I don't think that really Kyle Juszczyk is one that's going to lose his touches. I mean, he's the fullback. He's the guy who's maybe the likeliest for a short yardage kind of situation. So I like Kyle Juszczyk just as a guy that it would take 1 touchdown to pay off his price tag. So I think he's live as just a touchdown scorer. I don't think that he's a guy who's going to put up 20 fantasy points. I don't think he's going to put up 15 fantasy points unless he scores maybe 2 touchdowns, maybe he has a shot. But I think that he's just because he could score a touchdown. His price is low. I think certainly Kyle Juszczyk is in play.
All right. Let's see here.
7% projected ownership for Juszczyk, 3.9% optimal. So he's looking a little bit over-owned, but again, I'm still willing to eat that, I think.
406 likes.
Not bad.
Not bad, Neil. That's pretty damn good.
But you said 500. That's not 500.
No. But we still have 10 minutes.
Yeah. Oh, we can do it.
Yeah. I mean, that's.
Or I should say they can do it. Chat can do it.
I see that.
The viewers can do it.
Now you got it. Yeah. 418. We're climbing. We're there. I mean, I'm just chalking this up as a win, and I'll be wildly disappointed. I always say you can't show your face around the family out of pure disgust and shame if you don't get there. But we'll do this. Hawkins season with a $10 super chat. Thanks. He just poured all that money he won on Hawkinson, 100% Hawkinson exposure yesterday.
Yeah, right.
If you had to pick one player under 10% ownership to take a shot on, who would it be? Great question. Who would it be, Neil? Under 10% if you had to take one guy.
All right, let me
500 likes. Look at that.
Really?
Look at that.
Wow. That is impressive. All right. Juszczyk is certainly up there. We don't have a ton of great options under 10%. Let's see. Juszczyk is in play. I guess Ray McLeod kind of in play. Tevin Coleman theoretically in play. Ross Dwelly is active, so he's theoretically in play. Willie Snead is active. I don't know if I'll play much Marlon Mack. I saw somebody in chat. I think Bean Dude was saying he's going to play some Marlon Mack. Maybe somebody to consider. It's Juszczyk for me. I think he's just the likeliest to score a touchdown. So I think it's got to be Juszczyk. What do you think?
Okay. What'd you say?
Do you have an opinion on players under 10% owned that you'd take some shots on?
Juszczyk feels like the guy. If Atwell was active, I feel like we were convincing each other, talking each other into Like, hey, might have a 50-yard touchdown.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
Juszczyk is just the likeliest to, like, if they're on the goal line, they like to give it to Juszczyk sometimes.
Yeah.
So I think that he's
and
the likeliest.
The running back room is banged up. That's what happened last year when they had, a lot of inactives. Davis Prince was someone that was actually spelling Jeff Wilson quite a bit after Eli Mitchell went down. So kind of significant there. All right. Let's talk about the pass catchers. You have Deebo Samuel, you have George Kittle, you have Brandon Ayuk, you have Juwan Jennings. There's some guys here that are going to be getting ownership based either on pure usage, skill, or just the fact that they're very, very cheap and they're involved enough in the offense to where we can make an argument for them. And I will point one thing out, Neil, before you take over. Danny Gray is out for San Francisco. Not a big piece, obviously, but he was playing around 10% of snaps over the last 2 weeks.
Maybe Willie Snead take those snaps. Willie Snead is active instead. So maybe who knows if he's going to have a role in this offense.
In there as well.
Yeah, Ray McLeod is in there. They've got a lot of options. We'll start at the top, though. Deebo Samuel, clearly the number one option among the pass catchers. We've got him even a little bit under owned. We've got him owned in the captain spot 14.2% of the time, optimal in the captain spot 14.5%. I mean, that's essentially neutral. He's owned about where he should be in the captain spot. And then also the Utah spot. We've got him owned 47% of the time, optimal 50% of the time. So some positive leverage on Deebo. The price is right there. Deebo is just always very involved. He's involved as a rusher. He's involved as a receiver. What else can you say about Deebo? He's a great player. I'll be playing plenty of Deebo tonight. Kittle has only played one game so far this year, but he was very involved right away. He was active for like 91% of the snaps, I believe. I think he only saw 4 or 5 targets, so not as active in the passing game, but he'll get there. He'll have some games where he blows up. So 6% ownership in the captain spot, optimal 6.3% of the time. Looks fine. And in the utility spot, projected for 28.6% ownership, 32.3% optimal. He's 6,600. The price is just right for a guy who obviously has that blow up potential. So I like Kittle. Ayuk looks like he's a little bit over-owned, but he's 7,600. He's, fairly neutral. He's not massively over-owned. 5.2% ownership in the captain spot, optimal 3.8% of the time. So a little bit over-owned there. And then the same thing, utility spot, owned 26.5% of the time, optimal 24.6% of the time. So, it doesn't look incredible by those numbers. I'll probably be pretty close to the field on Brandon Ayuk. Is probably about where I want to be. Not somebody I'm taking a huge stand on. He obviously has that potential to have a big game. I think in their last game, he scored a touchdown right away, but then didn't really do anything the rest of the game. But he certainly could. He could have 100 yards and a touchdown. I think that is within his range of outcomes. So Ayuk is interesting, but not somebody that I'm taking a huge stand on one way or the other. Juwan Jennings looks like a place where I'm going to be using Juwan Jennings a fair amount, I think, to save some salary. He's in the captain spot, projected for 2.4% ownership, optimal 4.1% of the time. At 2,000, he's had enough opportunities to pay off that $2,000 price tag. So and then in the utility spot, 16% ownership, 19% optimal. So some positive leverage on Juwan Jennings. The $2,000 price tag, certainly right for his opportunities. Let me look up his 56 routes run and 11 targets so far this year. So, plenty of opportunity. I think he's third on the team so far in targets. Now, obviously, Kittle's only played one game, so he would probably be fourth behind Kittle as well. But Juwan Jennings appears to be the number 3 wide receiver. So I think he's in play. Ray McLeod has run 25 routes so far this year, 4 targets, not getting a ton of ownership. So he's one of those kind of large field dart throws that I'll be playing some of. Rare, I think he's at 2,400 price tag. It looks a little bit over-owned according to the tools, 4.5% projected ownership, 1.1% optimal, but I'm willing to go there. Ray McLeod, I'll probably even be above the field on Ray McLeod just as a way to get a little bit unique. You need to play some of those guys, even with a little bit of negative leverage. I think I'm okay with that. And then Willie Snead, honestly, what kind of read do we have on? Do you have any opinion on Willie Snead?
No, I have no idea if he's going to play.
Exactly. We don't know if Willie Snead is going to play.
And honestly, I look at this and I see, if you're just looking at snap counts for receivers, there's only so much left to go around, because Ayuk's going to play anywhere from 90 to 99% of snaps. He's played 99, 88, and 89% of snaps over the first 3 games. Deebo Samuel's going to hover around 80% every game. Then you got Juwan Jennings, who's going to play half of the snaps, right? Then you have Ray McLeod, who's out there getting about a quarter of the snaps per game, 25, playing about a quarter, 25%. So what's really left? Like, does he play a Danny Gray type role? Yeah, I don't know. Does he fill in for those, or do you just give them to someone else that's already playing a lot of snaps? I don't know. It's a real tough one.
Does he get the in garbage time veteran respect? Throw him out there, get him some action. Maybe he doesn't play unless there's garbage time. I don't know. It's a thin play. It's a play that I'll probably go to some anyway, just because I kind of sprinkle in some of these thin plays and just hope for the miracle. But I don't really see Willie Snead having much of I'm on the same page as you. I don't think he has much of a role except for if somebody gets hurt or maybe in garbage time.
Where was that? Fidel Delgado, I think his name was, said Laffy last year. Yeah, Laffy, Juwan Jennings last year had 2 touchdowns in the same game against the Rams. He did, week 18, right?
Nice.
I think it was the last game of the season.
Yeah. It was late. I think I remember that one. 6
for 94 and 2 touchdowns. So yeah, there's that. I mean, in week 10, he had 1 reception for 3 yards. It doesn't matter. He's playing a decent amount of snaps. He's not massively involved, but he's reasonably priced at 2K. I mean, I think from a value standpoint, yes, Juwan Jennings is clearly there's got to be Juwan, right?
I said Juwan Jennings. You see my filler arcs super chat? Just asking.
Sorry. He spelled it Juan and then it threw me off but yes, Juwan Jennings is playing enough and he's getting enough opportunity. My filler arc, where are we?
Jennings captain tonight. He's asking Jennings captain tonight, right? With 4 other San Francisco players. It's in play. Like, I think he's actually under-owned in our boom bust tool. As we said, he's been plenty involved. He's certainly live at that $2,000 price tag. So I think that, I don't know if I'd throw in, I guess you could do the onslaught. I think that it's certainly in play. Yeah, 2.4% projected ownership in the captain spot, 4.1% optimal. So in a large field GPP, I think Juwan Jennings is certainly in play as captain. And then, if you want to do an onslaught, oftentimes that is something that goes underplayed by the field. The field doesn't like to do onslaughts. So I think it's a reasonable play. Beautiful. And then did you see Savoca says that he knows that Snead is at least the 4th in his line. So that's what we know about Snead, is that he is at least the 4th Willie Snead in his line.
Okay. Yeah. So he's making a lineage joke.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Well done, sir. 3 free days, Stokastic plus NFL. Jordan, throw that in chat. Free. You want all of this content, especially for tonight. You still got an hour to build lineups. But all of the main slate content, all the showdown content, all of our tools, 3 free days using that link. Or you want to get a week half off Stokastic plus Platinum, not just football, every single sport, all of our tools for 50% off using that link, or Showdown DD, all one word, all caps. I got good news, Neil. We are 5 likes away from 600. So by the time we sign off right now, we would have not only hit our goal, but eclipsed it.
That's really solid.
Yeah, by 100. So appreciate you guys. This was fun. As always, follow Neil at PlayerQ, DFS, me at Laffy_D. You see that right there in the yellow underneath those beautiful heads. And Matt Gajewski, Matt Savoca, taking you all the way up to lock. Good luck tonight. Send us some screenshots. Let's get up in that Hall of Fame. We'll see you back here for Thursday night football. Peace.
What's up, everybody? Ben Razza here for OddsShopper, bringing you my best bet of the day. New week ahead. It is Monday, October 3rd in the sports world. We've got Monday Night Football. We've got a couple other things going on, so we're going to dig into the lines, find the bet, and place that wager. Hope everyone's Sunday went well. Hope you're enjoying all the content here at OddsShopper. If you've just found us or you're a loyal listener, welcome to OddsShopper, breaking down all things betting for every sport. You want to support us, hit the like button. It does really help us. You support the stream, and if you want to join the team, you want to join this fast-growing community, just press subscribe. We want you as part of the team. We want you watching these videos and commenting and being part of building up and hopefully cashing these tickets. Last time I saw you guys was Saturday. USC, they played all right, but 25.5-point favorites. They played too slow. They did win comfortably, but they never really threatened to cover that number. We look for the bounce back. It was a good college football week overall. That was a disappointing one, and now we turn that page to Monday Night Football. I'm going to talk about BetMGM as well in this video in just a little bit, but let's get into the wager. Where am I going for Monday Night Football? Here we go. Player props. This is a tough game. We've got the Rams. We've got the Niners. A close competitive spread. I didn't really have a lean on the side. I guess if I had to pick, I would lean with the Rams, but honestly, it was a very, very close spread, and I think that feels about right. But I did find a passing yards prop that I like under 252.5 passing yards for Matthew Stafford in this spot. First off, usually I end with this. I'll start with this. I went to oddchopper.com because with prop lines, you're going to find discrepancies. This is the best number by far. I found 249s, 250s, 252.5. I am laying a little juice at minus 125. That's a really good number, courtesy of OddsShopper. There was juice attached to those numbers as well, so I like this. Now let's get into the teams. We've got the Rams, 2-1 on the year. They opened.
And we are live. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Live Before Lock on the Stokastic DFS channel. My name is Matt Savoca, and it is the law firm. It's Matt and Matt. I'm here with Matt Gajewski, and we are bringing you up till lock this NFC West showdown. I'm still actually surprised at the spread here. We got a lot to break down, and I know they didn't really break down kickers' defenses. We'll go position by position, but first we got to say hello to Mr. College and NFL, Matt Gajewski. Follow him at Matt_Gajewski. How are you this fine Monday evening, sir?
I'm doing good, man. I'm excited for this game. I was a little surprised. Total at 42. I was expecting just a tick higher than this, a little more scoring. But, you know, these are kind of the gross environments that I like to put on Showdown. That's one thing I always say is if we're going to get a total game around like 40 points, put it on Showdown. So that way we're actually considering the plays. So I'm glad we have this here. Couple elite plays, really strong players. I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah. Couple elite plays to say the least. I think we all know who you're talking about there. Of course, we'll start with the game environment in general. You mentioned it right off the top. We've got this pretty low total. Actually, right off the top, we should mention No House Advantage. Thanks again for sponsoring this video. They brought it up in the first hour. We will bring it up again a little bit later, but No House Advantage, once again, has some overlay. Get in there. Team third platform. Oh, and we see a super chat from Red Skittles, Matt, Goat, Jeski, and Savoca.
Beautiful.
Okay. All right. This is starting really strong. This is starting incredibly strong. Very happy to be here. Happy you all are here. And thanks again to No House Advantage. Okay, I just want to say off the top, the total didn't surprise me, Matt. The fact that the 49ers are favored with their backup quarterback in there is against the former Super Bowl champs. I feel like obviously the home field advantage plays a little bit of a factor here, but what are the main reasons you see as Vegas sets these lines, or is it just kind of to entice people to the Rams side?
The Rams haven't looked great to start the year. Loughran and I talked about this morning. The way they build their team, it's hyper fragile. And luckily they got that Super Bowl doing so. But when you build a team like that, they essentially got rid of all their draft capital, signed a few key studs, and they were able to get through. Now and in the future, they're going to have some trouble fielding a full roster just because they don't have those draft picks to fall back on. So you're already seeing some of that happen, like Whitworth gone on the O-line. I know he was aging, but that unit's taken a slight step back. That's been reflected in the run game for them. On defense, they don't quite have the same number of players. Yes, they still have some elite guys like Aaron Donald, but it's not quite the same depth that they had in the Super Bowl run for them. So I do think their roster is just a little bit weaker, and there are some edges the 49ers can exploit. And you mentioned backup quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo. He's probably like, I don't know, where would you rank him among starting quarterbacks? Like 25, 20? Is that accurate?
I think that's probably fair, in the 23 to 27 range as a starter.
Yeah, you could rattle off a bunch of guys he's better than, like Baker, Geno, and maybe not Geno after last week, but
Geno's a GOAT now, right? Yeah.
Geno is a GOAT now, but like Zach Wilson's debatable. Like there's a lot of guys in the NFL right now that I think you would take Jimmy Garoppolo over. So moving from Lance to him, some people might not even argue that that's a downgrade, honestly.
That's fair.
I don't know if I'm one of them, but like I think some people would make that argument.
I mean, from a NFL game manager readiness standpoint, Jimmy Garoppolo might be slightly ahead of Trey Lance right now. And maybe that's the way the Vegas bookmakers are seeing it. And it also has to do with the type of offense he's being asked to run, right? Right now, he's at 25 pass attempts per game. That's absolutely nothing. 2.5 pass attempts of 20 or more air yards downfield. That's 30th in the NFL. And so we know what this offense in San Francisco is all about. Running, more running, and defense. And I will say LA at a -9 point differential, not all that impressive. They're 21st ranked offense in overall points right now. So I kind of get that aspect. Let's go to the key inactives here. The big thing I think are the call-ups in the San Francisco skill position players. Actually, Trent Williams being inactive is probably the biggest real life football thing, right? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100% agree with that.
And then
he's like a top 3 tackle in the NFL.
Yeah, he's ridiculous. Also, moves insanely fast for his size. Tevin Coleman is going to get run today, I think, being called up into the active roster. And then we got Willie Snead. People were talking about in the chat. Honestly, this could be like 2 or 3 routes and a single target, but in a showdown slate, we got to bring them up. And they're playing over players like Tyrion Davis-Price, Danny Gray, and Tyler Kroft, who are all inactive tonight. Javon Kinlaw on the other side of the ball, also inactive for them. What do you see there? Is that changing the way you're building lineups tonight in this one-game slate?
Not too much. The only thing it really did was open up a couple of the min price guys. And I'm not even too sure about how strong these min price guys are. Do I really want to be playing a Tevin Coleman here? He's probably active as just a reserve because, what is that team going to do? Well, first they're going to use Jeff Wilson. Then they're going to use Debo a little bit there. Maybe they even go to a Kyle Juszczyk over Tevin Coleman. The one thing we can say in his favor is that he has familiarity with the system. He's been with Kyle Shanahan forever. So he could be a guy that steps in right away and handles a little bit of work. But at this point, bouncing around the league, essentially replacement level practice squad guy, I don't really think he's desirable for the 49ers to at least give any sort of workload.
Okay, I am in full agreement there. I will say that there is that garbage time argument. We talk about these players all the time. If it does get out of hand for one of these teams, it could result in both teams having their scrubs play. We got to mention them in this category for that reason. On the Rams side of the ball, Tutu Atwell is inactive. I'm really seeing that as kind of like the main thing. That's not changing much for me. We're knowing how this Los Angeles Rams offense is concentrating. How about you?
Doesn't change much for me. Atwell was a guy just handling a few snaps here and there. He's more or less just a special teamer for this team. He was only taking Skowronek off the field for a snap here and there.
Agreed there. Okay, guys, before we move on to the position by position breakdown, makes a big deal. Give us a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. All the good stuff. Lofty was getting into it last hour, pushing that like button well over 500. What if we get the likes? I don't know, 1,000? We get 1,000 likes. 2,500 people hanging out right before we started today. And we got free stuff for you over on Stokastic.com. If you're playing MLB DFS, don't forget that everything we have to offer for MLB night slates on DraftKings is 100% free for the remainder of the season. Get into the MLB streets right at the very end as well. Very fun. Click the DK Night Owl link below to check out tonight's tools and projections as well. We're going to hit the quarterback position. Very different offenses. As we already mentioned, Jimmy Garoppolo, an extremely conservative offense he's running. And Matthew Stafford looking to get back on track. He's kind of been up and down all season long. How are you reading this position? Are you getting to one quarterback more than the other? And break this down for us.
It's actually been a little bit more Garoppolo from a price adjusted standpoint. He's a guy that came up a little bit more than Stafford for me. If you look on the back end with our tools, this is reflected there as well. He has a slightly higher leverage score compared to Stafford. And honestly, this surprised me a little bit. I thought I'd be getting more of Stafford and just, like Kupp builds, stacks of the Rams. But Garoppolo, he comes up a little bit for me running some stack rules, not only because Debo is a player who has a high leverage score, but you're getting value guys in this offense. Like Jennings pops up, Kittle pops up. And this is a team, when they do throw, it should be fairly concentrated. And Garoppolo also kind of changes the offense a little bit. We haven't necessarily seen a massive shift yet, but with Trey Lance going down, as we get more games under the 49ers belt, I do expect their pass rate to tick up a little bit here. So for some of the contextual things, that's why I got slightly more Garoppolo, but it's plenty of both, to be honest with you. I've got quite a few lineups with both of these passers. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a showdown slate, guys. You know this. If you're fading both quarterbacks, you are making a very, very bold bet. Doesn't mean it can't hit. It just means it's unlikely to hit. Just understand the bet that you're making. Matthew Stafford at the flex, interestingly enough, has a positive leverage tonight. He ends up as an optimal flex player more often than he's expected to be played as a flex player tonight, despite his optimal versus ownership in our boom bust to our latest run, looking right about as a wash. I just think that there's so many more ways it goes right for Matthew Stafford. Honestly, I think one of the ways it goes right for Jimmy Garoppolo is if Matthew Stafford is somehow lighting the San Francisco defense on fire. I certainly don't think that is the most likely thing. Again, we're talking about range of outcomes, but at least Stafford has the weaponry and the offensive scheme in place to find himself in a shootout. I think Jimmy Garoppolo has to be absolutely forced into that type of game script. And while I do think you're right about the pass rate ticking up simply because he doesn't rush the ball, Garoppolo, I still think we're talking about 28th to 32nd in the league in pass attempts per game.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. It just comes down to price and the leverage for me. So Garoppolo, it ends up being slightly ahead of Stafford, and I can't stress that enough. I'm saying the word slightly. This is, you force me to choose. I have one lineup. I got to build one stack. I'm taking the leverage that I'm getting with the Garoppolo Debo side. But if you're allowing me to build multiple, which fortunately the wonderful platforms DraftKings and FanDuel do allow, I'll be playing a lot of both of them.
Yeah, absolutely. We all will. And on FanDuel, I think, why would you play Jimmy Garoppolo if Matthew Stafford is just 500 more in salary?
100% agree with that. 100% agree.
It's kind of, Jimmy Garoppolo is only a tournament contrarian option on FanDuel because it's just kind of easy for me. Just the type of offense. That kind of sums it up for the quarterback position. We're not playing backups to try to galaxy brain our way into the millie today. We're not doing it.
No, we're not. I will never take that strategy.
The fact that it worked once is just enough for everyone to talk about it. Just like I should be talking about Stokastic Plus, NFL. Yeah, it's really good, guys. You get access to all the great Stokastic Plus tools and content for nearly every DFS sport out there with the Stokastic Plus DFS Pass. This includes full access to our premium content, ownership projections, lineup builder, premium Discord channel, and much, much more. If you are a new Stokastic Plus user, you can save 50% on your first week of any Stokastic Plus Pass. Stokastic Plus Pass, all you have to do is click the link in the video description below to activate the offer, or you can head over to the join page and use promo code Showdown Live. That's all one word, Showdown Live, like we always say in conversation. Hey, what's up, man? Showdown Live. But that's what the code is, and the tools are awesome. Lofty talked about it last hour. There's a reason so many people are winning so much money with these Stokastic Plus tools. Get into the action today. Okay, the running back position is really weird today because on one side, Los Angeles, I don't think they know what they want to do. And then clearly in San Francisco, we got one clear option with Jeff Wilson Jr., but they got a wide receiver we got to talk about in a minute who's going to take rushing attempts, and they just called up some people. Make sense of this for me because a lot of them look pretty bad on the tools, to be honest.
Are we including Debo in this discussion, or should we wait for him at wide receiver? Because
I think we should wait for the full Debo discussion, but I think it's important to talk about him in order to contextualize the San Francisco backs, no?
Right. So in providing context for him with the rest of the San Francisco backs, I don't want to just call him an annoyance, but what he does is he hinders the opportunity share for guys like Jeff Wilson or whatever other change of pace back they may use, which really reduces Jeff Wilson's ceiling. Also, Deebo Samuel, historically, we're actually getting a pretty good sample of this now. He's been used in high value situations. We know his pedigree as a receiver. They also like to use him around the red zone as their most explosive playmaker. When you're dealing with the injuries like they are, yeah, it makes sense, I guess, to put Deebo Samuel, get the ball in his hands any way possible. That does hurt Jeff Wilson here. So to me, I do agree with the tools. We're seeing Jeff Wilson come in pretty down there in terms of negative leverage scores. He's a guy I will be not fading completely, but playing a little bit less of and trying to get some pass catchers in his price range because of the Deebo effect.
This is crazy, Matt. In the latest run, unless it's been since this show started, because I did it right before the show started, it looks like even when you separated out the running backs on DraftKings, every single running back at the captain spot and at the flex spot has a neutral or negative leverage score. Now, let's be clear. That doesn't mean that none of them can hit at their salary. It just means that when we run the sims, comparing their optimal lineup percentage to their actual ownership percentage, they all are meh or bad. I don't know what to tell you about that, but I think it makes sense, right? Because there's so many ways this running back core could fail for Los Angeles. There's a great defensive line they're running against, despite Kinlaw being out. And if you're playing multiple lineups, you're probably going there. I kind of lean Cam Akers as someone they still want to get going. No,
that's my take too, especially with the backfield trending that direction. Cam Akers, they have high draft capital spent in both of these backs, but more recently, Cam Akers, they showed a willingness to give him a full workload immediately post Achilles in the playoffs. He gets re-injured. He's really inefficient. He's sort of in the doghouse to start this year. And somehow he's battled his way back and played over Henderson. Neither of them have been particularly efficient. So I won't say it's like Akers, who's had a distinct edge over Henderson in this regard.
Yep.
But he is a back who has more of a 3-down profile than Henderson. And just recently, the backfield has been going that direction. So if I'm throwing some shots at virtually the same price, I'll take Akers.
I have to agree. I don't feel great about any of it. I like Neil's take. Like, they get Kyle Juszczyk involved in the red zone. Kyle Shanahan's always trying to use that phrase again, galaxy brain, to the red zone situation. It doesn't mean Jeff Wilson can't get in either. He's probably going to have one of these pop weeks soon enough where he gets like 35 fantasy points. But I think the player that it's really hard to trust beyond that, Tevin Coleman, we've seen absolutely nothing of it. And then why is Tevin Coleman getting called up if you trust Jordan Mason? He's one that probably no one is going to get to at 1,200. Anything you're seeing in the San Francisco backup options, and you can include Juszczyk there. You getting there at all?
Juszczyk I'll get to a little bit based on price, and we've seen him pop up for big games. It's hard to predict when. It seems like this could be a game plan specific thing. Juszczyk gets targeted a few times in the past game, but he has a decent snap share, just 2 carries on the year. So not like hyper involved, but if you're throwing darts in large field tournaments, you're playing the Millie Maker. I think he's a guy that should be out there. And we also don't really know what's going to happen here without Trent Williams. We'll probably talk about this with Kittle. I think that's one thing they could do to try to ease the loss of their all-star left tackle, have Kittle into block. But maybe one thing you see is them use Juszczyk as just more of a pass protector in the backfield wherever pressure may come. So there is a chance his snap share rises tonight. Again, I don't really know what they're going to do. I think they're going to do maybe a little bit of both here with Juszczyk and Kittle blocking. But if anything, that could raise his snap share.
I actually agree with that take. And, as I'm looking at this running back core for both teams as a whole, man, this is a fun night if you're playing multi-entry, if you're gathering 20 lineups together, because we actually have some viable players at the 200 to 1,000 range for running for both teams. It's kind of weird, this slate, but it's kind of exciting. All right, I'm getting into it, especially if you're trying to think like you want to take down the Millie Maker like Neil Orfield or just like that. Anything else on the running back position you want to hit before we move on here?
I don't think so. I think we touched on everybody. I'll play a little bit of Tevin, but very little.
Yeah, I'll take a shot or two. You know where I'm definitely taking a shot? It's no house advantage, guys. No house advantage. We talked earlier about them. Huge overlay. Just awesome overlay right now. Free money, basically, in this top tournament. The 20K Monday Night Football Showdown with 10K to first, $15 entry is 45% full right now. The $5 entry, 2K play action, 47% full. Those aren't going to fill tonight. I saw our founder, Alex Osimo Baker, showing off the screenshot life with No House Advantage. We continue to update our tools for No House Advantage over at Stokastic.com, and we thank them a ton for sponsoring the show. Check out the link in the video description below because they upped that first match deposit bonus to $50. So now is literally the best time to get in there that there has been. No House Advantage. Thanks again. All right, wide receivers. Let's start with Cooper Kupp. How are you handling Cooper Kupp? Because it's Cooper, Kupp, and everybody else. So let's just start there and then talk about everyone else.
Right. And you bring up a good point. I think with Cooper Kupp, it's not do you play him or not? It's more or less where do you play him and how do you build lineups around him? Whenever we have a player this good, for lack of a better term, I like to look at our tools, see where they provide the most leverage, because I don't want to fade Cooper Kupp, and I don't think you'd want to either, unless you're playing a Millie Maker style build. So if you're playing anything small to mid-sized field, I think you should be playing Cooper Kupp, and where it looks like he's giving you the most leverage is in the utility spot. And I think that makes a lot of sense. He's just arguably a top 5 player popularity-wise in the NFL and maybe talent-wise. So people want to captain this guy. Even just moving him to the flex spot, you're not only freeing up salary, but you could also be just getting to a unique construction that way. Again, I think it's more or less, where do you play him, not do you play him?
Yeah, how you handle him on a contest by contest selection basis. Obviously, in cash games, it's really hard to get away from him. It's someplace in your lineup. And he's the only player on the slate. If he finishes with 12 for 155 and 2, we're barely even blinking at this point. I think PFF showed off some of their advanced stats that showed that over 45% of the time, Kupp was the first read on a pass play for the Rams. I absolutely believe it the way this season has gone. But we got to talk about some of these other players. Let's talk about the rest of the wide receiver core from both teams here. We'll just go through the whole group. From a salary standpoint, we got Deebo Samuel below Cooper Kupp. We've also got Allen Robinson in this lineup. And then the players get thin pretty quickly. Brandon Ayuk is okay. Ben Skoranek is a really thin GPP play, and then you're just kind of throwing darts. No,
I personally think so. This is a team, 2 teams really, that don't rotate a ton of receivers. You know, for San Francisco, you're basically seeing 2 wide sets as their base personnel because they use so much Juszczyk and Kittle and tight end. So they're not running 11 personnel as much as some other teams. When you do see that third wide receiver, Juwan Jennings, most of the time, his snap share's at 53% right now. He has 11 targets on the year. Mm-hmm. So I am really trying to focus in on Deebo in particular for San Francisco because of the rushing plus receiving equity. We also just know he's a high upside player. We mentioned the red zone usage earlier. They're going to use him creatively over there, but he's just a player that's going to touch the ball a ton. Now, it's not going to come in the form of targets as much as Cooper Kupp. That's why if you're just building one lineup and you need to choose one, it's Kupp all the way for me. But Deebo has a similar touch ceiling, and I think similar upside. He just doesn't hit it quite as much. Ayuk is interesting at his price. What do you think about him?
I have trouble with these tertiary options with Jimmy Garoppolo right now. One thing I will say is I guess Ayuk's floor is a little bit higher with Garoppolo than it was with Trey Lance, but I don't really know. I just really don't know what the true ceiling is for Ayuk in this offense is. He doesn't show up as a pretty good point per dollar play at all today. In fact, he's the 4th lowest wide receiver on DraftKings. I think that has a lot to do with the offense he plays on. It's rare that they move away from their rush heavy game script. And so you're talking about a middling percentage of a very low pass volume. And so he could always be efficient on it in a 1-game slate. But if you're just looking at it from an expected fantasy point standpoint, I'm probably going to tell you try to get up to more certainty from the volume perspective with other players.
So I wanted to ask you this because he's on DraftKings 1,000 more than Kittle. They're coming in with almost the same ownership projections. I think I'd rather save the $1,000 by going to Kittle. Now we have a lot of moving parts in this. Kittle missed the first 2 weeks. They're making a quarterback change. We don't necessarily know how this target share is going to shake out, but we do have a larger sample of them coexisting together. I think for the $1,000, I'm just going to go down to Kittle in like a one lineup situation.
You nailed it. You absolutely nailed it. That's the exact way I'm seeing it. And you've got Allen Robinson lower in salary as well. It's really hard for me to see Ayuk as a priority play today. Could he hit? I mean, absolutely, he could hit. He's probably the fourth or fifth most likely skill position player to hit, but still in a game like this, which by the way, even just looking at chat tonight, guys, you guys have wild opinions about how this game flow is going to go. It just tells you about the overall variance from an offensive perspective both teams have, and that definitely trickles down to the skill position players. Then after Ayuk and Robinson, actually, we should bring up Robinson more. Are you hopeful that Robinson continues his pretty positive last couple weeks, or is this going to continue to be Kupp's team first and foremost, and Robinson could be an afterthought, especially with Higbee involved as well?
Hopeful is a great word. I am hopeful. I'm not confident at all. Higbee's out-targeted Robinson 24-12 this year. He's doubled up Robinson's targets, which is egregious to me. Ben Skowronek has more targets than Allen Robinson. It's just one more. But the uninvolvement is concerning to me, and it's trended in the right direction, to your point. So I am willing to go back to him. But it's getting dangerously close for Allen Robinson, especially with the going on 2 seasons now of unproductive play on the field. At what point do we just move down to a more trustworthy Tyler Higbee and save the $1,000? Because our projections seem to like that just from a median perspective. I don't know. It's tough right now for anyone not named Cooper Kupp on the Rams.
A-Rod has that brand name, absolutely, because of the past superstar seasons, but he has not had more than 5 targets in a game. I will say, here's the big difference, Matt, between a 5-target game for the Chicago Bears and a 5-target game for the Los Angeles Rams. He's managed to have 2 red zone targets in each of the last 2 games. His 6 red zone targets are among the top 10 wide receivers right now. Now, that's
half of his targets in the red zone.
It's not a huge amount of volume, but that's where things like expected fantasy points can really help you out. He doesn't look terrible. And he gives you that salary discount. He's someone I'm pretty interested in. Positive leverage score at the flex position as well, so definitely interested there. Actually, I think he has a positive leverage score as a flex and a captain. Very interesting to me. And then, oh boy, it gets gross. Skowronek. Talk to me. I mean, you brought up Skowronek already. More involved than people realize, right?
Yeah, especially lately too. He just has some of the weirdest usage I've ever seen. He's actually like a pretty big-bodied player. Played his college ball at Northwestern for 4 years, grad transferred to Notre Dame, and he really operated as a big slot there. But we've seen Sean McVay dabble with him in line, like kind of as this H-back, even as a fullback at times. And that keeps him on the field. Now, he's definitely not going to be as involved as Kupp. And as the sample size increases this year, I would expect Allen Robinson to move ahead of him. But with his versatility, I don't think Skowronek's leaving the field anytime soon. So for those of you playing big GPPs and looking for salary savers, I do think Skowronek is in play. He has a positive leverage score on the back end for us. And one big contextual thing about this slate is the value is really gross. You could play at 200 Tevin Coleman. I personally would rather just play a different construction entirely and play more of the Skowroneks, the Higbees, kind of that mid to lower tier value, but not your complete punt play range. I think you're getting a much better floor with a guy like Skowronek, and our tools still show him as positive leverage. So that's been my approach, is kind of take that build that doesn't go any lower than like your Skowroneks or Jennings really is the cheapest guy I'm playing with any sort of frequency tonight.
Yeah, I was going to mention Jennings as well. Juwan Jennings has 6 less air yards than Deebo Samuel this year. Now, I know that's kind of a trick, right? Because Deebo gets so much rushing volume and his average depth of target is in the absolute basement. But it just shows you that the types of usage are very, very different for these wide receivers. Juwan Jennings actually has a solid snap share, route participation rate, and has 14% of the team's air yards in the games that he's played. Not terrible for a 2K player. That's why you see his leverage score significantly higher. And I saw in the chat some people asking just some fundamental questions. No shame in asking, what do we mean by fading? It usually means that we're going to our ownership projections, and once we compare our range of outcomes and then the ownership projections that we have up on stokastic.com, it means that we're leaning towards being under that ownership projection in our own lineups. not necessarily staying completely away. We'll call it a full fade at that point, but that's basically what we mean by that, just to help out whoever that was in chat. Snead, you're asking for a 0, but hey, he's 200. It's a showdown slate. We can get weird with it. Malik Turner's in the lineup as well. And we also got Ray McLeod. Are you going there at all? You kind of said no.
If anyone, it's Ray McLeod, but I don't think that's a strong option either. He is at 25% snap share this year, 5 targets. I mean, I guess for your milli makers, I think the path for a ceiling here is an injury ahead of him, or Ray gets some like special team snaps, maybe like a kick return, but we're talking about really low probability events.
Well said. That's pretty much it for me. Again, it's fun because we have viable 200, I guess, to 2,000 players in Jauan Jennings. But again, it's low probability and low pass volume to begin with. Both of these defenses, not to mention, very strong. You ready to hit the tight end? And because we got just about 15 minutes, we'll keep it quick. We only got 4 of it. You ready to roll?
Yeah, we already kind of talked about them in conjunction too.
Right. Kittle is a blocker. He's very involved. He's on the field a ton. Same concerns about Kittle as we do for the rest of the offense. Volume, no concerns about talent whatsoever. It's Kittle's 6,600 is very appealing to me this evening.
Yeah, me too. Even with the projection for more blocking, like the blocking occurs in very specific situations. In pass downs, I do expect Juszczyk to be involved there. Kittle's still a dynamic receiver too. So maybe the routes drop a bit here for him, but I think in the high leverage situations where you need your pass catchers, Kittle will be running routes. So I'm still excited about him from that perspective overall. Higbee has an awesome projection for us. Now, I think it's semi-fragile. Lofty brought up a great point this morning about like Higbee's ADOT. It's just north of 3, and his yards per catch is actually pretty good this year. It's how he's actually getting some of his yardage, but we know that's not Higbee's game long-term. He's not your dynamic athlete like a Kyle Pitts or even a George Kittle on the other side. He looks a little more like a Robert Tonyan. So I'm not really encouraged that this will continue the yards after catch. But all that said, 24 targets, still second on the team, and it doubles up Allen Robinson. So he has been involved. And honestly, a low ADOT could just give him added reliability in terms of target share.
He's also been a riddle. Like he gets 11 targets week 1. Ends up with just 39 receiving yards, has a few passes like doink off his hands, then gets 9 targets, 2 in the red zone, 71 total yards. But then he has like a 61 total yard game on 4 targets on 8 total air yards. So they're using him in screen pass situations. They're also using him in the red zone. He's got 3 or 4 red zone targets. That's top 7 at his position as well. He's going to look really good, especially compared to salary-based expectations at 5,200. He's sort of that mid-tier line. Everyone else below him, including Jauan Jennings, who I spoke well of, is still sort of a large field play. It gets really dicey after that. And then talk to me about Blanton and Dwelly. Dwelly's the one who will see the field a lot. Are you playing Kendall Blanton at all?
No, I'm not playing any Blanton. Dwelly, even I think like 3 targets on a 32.5% snap share. Like if anything, they're using him as an extra blocker more than Kittle. So I think his routes are even more fragile than Kittle's.
That's fair. I will say he'll probably see the field plenty because Tyler Kroft is inactive. Maybe they go a little more wide receiver heavy with the Kroft inactive. Again, these are really low probability plays. Let's hit the defenses and the kickers. Everyone's favorite. Anyone standing out among the big 4?
I always like the kickers, especially in low scoring game environments. We have a 42-point total here. I kind of just give what the optimizers actually give me between them, which generally it comes out even between them. Robbie Gould having the slightly higher implied team total gives him a little bit of an edge, but again, you see this reflected in salary too. As for defenses, I'm pretty interested in San Francisco. I know we talked about the injury to Williams for the Niners themselves, but historically, they've done a good job masking some injuries on the offensive line. So you'll see Kittle come in and block. You'll see Juszczyk block. You'll also see Kyle Shanahan just be good overall schematically. Like he knows Trent Williams is hurt. He can play to that. And then on the other side, this Rams offensive line has been suspect, and you're going up a pretty good front 7 for San Francisco. I do believe that is personally the strength of their defense, and the Rams have been allowing some pressure this year. So that is one mismatch I'll be looking to exploit in terms of defenses, getting slightly more of the 49ers compared to the Rams.
I'm glad you brought this up because I was waiting to bring this up until waiting towards the end. To the true fans, the ones who stuck around, I think this game could go well under. It's already minuscule total because of the quality of both defenses and the holes in both offenses that those defenses are kind of ready to exploit. I know there are some injuries to be concerned about, but in schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed to opposing offenses, the San Francisco 49ers are the fourth best team in the NFL, again, heading into this Sunday's game. The Los Angeles Rams are eighth. They're both excellent against opposing quarterbacks, which usually trickles down to the wide receiver position. And if you look at specifically that stat against the running back position, the thing that the 49ers want to do the most, the Rams have been lights out against the run so far this year. Again, specifically against the running back, but against the run overall. So I do think both defense absolutely viable. Not getting crazy playing in a ton of captain spots or anything like that, but especially as a flex play, the 49ers defense and the Rams defense, positive leverage. You can play either kicker if you feel like it. Obviously, you go with the slight favorite, but I honestly think you can. I like Matt Gay and Robbie Gould. I'm playing a bunch of them, to be completely honest. Do you have any read on a kicker? I mean, how much read on kickers do we really have?
The kicker expert is AB from the morning show. He's always spot on with these guys. I have slight preference towards Robbie Gould. Slight, very slight, just as the team with the higher implied team total. But getting to Matt Gay as well, I think they're both solid NFL kickers.
They're both people on the field kicking footballs. That's exciting. Hey, we actually got through all this. Usually we're like racing through. So we've got a few minutes for your questions. Definitely bring them in. Oh, I already see someone tagging me. Should I start Kittle or Higbee tonight? I think you're starting Higbee. Oh man, because of the volume. I think you're starting it because you got a chance at 9 to 11 targets, and it makes me want to throw up in my mouth because I almost 1000% sure that Kittle is the better player.
Yeah, I will side with the projections here, and it is so close. We have Kittle just barely ahead of Higbee. But honestly, for my season-long leagues, this is how I make all my decisions.
And we've got a player compare tool over on Stokastic.com that can help you out with those types of things. That is tough. That is tough. I mean,
it's like 0.3 points separating them.
And this is like pure fantasy football fundamentals, right? Tyler Higbee this year. Again, we're a little bit of a small sample trap. 3 games total for this team, but number 3 among tight ends in snap share, number 4 in target rate, number 10 in routes run, number 2 in target share. And even with all those screen passes and 8 total air yards in week 3, he's 17th among all tight ends in air yard share. If I knew nothing about the players, I would definitely go with Higbee. So it's just me trying to give proper credit to the talent we know that Kittle is. 10K for last shop. Who should I go with at 10K? I'll throw it to you as I get things ready here, Gajewski. I'll answer as well.
Under 10K, can we go Garoppolo right at 10K? Otherwise, I'm probably just going with Jeff Wilson. It's tough though.
Yeah, Jeff Wilson.
That's a weird spot. We don't have anybody like 9K.
Captain Allen Robinson is 93K. Captain George Kittle 99K.
Does it have to be captain?
Yeah, I was just throwing out possible options for them.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize it was captain. I thought we were talking flex.
I'm assuming. Yeah, it's only 6 minutes to lock. I'm having them rearrange their entire roster with the possibility of a new captain. That's what we like to do. Coleman, Mack, or Ray McLeod?
Ray McLeod, I guess. Man,
that would be gross. My guess as well. At least he's done something. And, Ray McLeod, I'm trying to see, has it been used much this year? He's another one who can get rush attempts. Yeah, he hasn't gotten it this year at all, really. 25% snap share. God, that's gross. That is so gross. May you all finish right behind me. We got 5 minutes left. Okay, how about this? Who's your favorite captain tonight on DraftKings, Matt?
My favorite is Debo.
Debo. Okay, break that down.
So
for
I'm
us.
using Kupp in the flex, of course, in those lineups. And then just playing the leverage game with Debo is probably the highest touch upside player outside of Kupp.
Yeah, and also a touch floor that you rarely see from wide receivers. Now, on a per touch basis, sure, a rush isn't as nice as a target, but if you have guaranteed touches, especially in a 1-game slate, absolutely, I totally buy that. Honestly, my favorite is Allen Robinson at that mid-range. I think that he could finally get involved, and I still don't know about the offense overall in this game. I think there could just be one pop player, so I am building lineups like that. I saw are both tight ends in the flex viable? Absolutely, right? No doubt about it, right?
Yeah, 100%.
All right, there you go. 49ers defense captain. I've heard crazier things. Show me your TDs. Absolutely. Mark Langford's calling a shot, taking down both 20 max on the DK tonight, the $1 and the $3. I love to see it. And a super chat rolling in from the greatest fans on earth. Kupp or Debo for captain MVP. Okay, FanDuel cash. Okay, he's asking both. I'm going Kupp if I can possibly fit him in. No, I'm doing right now in my cash lineups. I have Kupp not in my captain spot, but in the lineup.
I've got Kupp as my captain.
Okay.
I don't really think you can go wrong. You're going to see some of both.
Yeah, it's absolutely fine. A-Rob owners will not cash. It's not my birthday, Spencer. This is what I love. I love when chat is like taking our call and just being like, that's the worst call of the night. And then everyone's surprised and we all somehow find our way to somewhat unique lineups. I don't think he's a waste of a roster spot at all, Jake Johnson. I really don't. Any other players you want to highlight here with about 3 minutes left?
I don't think he's a waste of a roster spot either. Like, you're purposely taking a stand with Allen Robinson for leverage purposes. He hasn't been good this year. You and I both know that. I'm sure you people in the chat know that as well, but you're making a bet on him bouncing back. So that's what I'm doing.
Brandon Powell. Did we mention Brandon Powell? He is a person here.
No. We
didn't mention Brandon Powell. What are we doing? What are we doing with our lives? Not mentioning a player who's played 8.43. Don't forget the 4.3% of snaps for this team so far. 2 rushing attempts. Oh, right? We're going there. Actually, we haven't projected kind of high.
I'm not playing him.
Okay, that's fine. Play both defense in the flex. I don't love that, Malcolm, but thank you very much for the super chats. We really appreciate it, man. Thanks for hanging out. How about you, Matt?
Got to be a really low scoring game environment, chaos. Hopefully you get like a special teams touchdown or some pick sixes. You probably need like scores on defense, not just your run of the mill sacks, INTs, or fumble recoveries. You probably need some sort of defensive score on at least one side.
I think that's a fair way to put it. Oh, this is going to be a wild slate. I really love the chat breaking it down for us. You guys have a life of your own sometimes. And then today especially, you guys have some wild ideas about this, how this game is going to break down. Thanks so much for hanging out. Matt, we got about a minute left till lock. Where can they find you? Let them know. And any final words for the people?
I'm on Twitter at Matt_Gajewski. If you go to Stokastic.com, anything college football, you'll probably find me. But otherwise, thank you guys for watching the stream tonight and always being with us. You allow Matt and I and everyone else here at the team to do what we love. And hope you guys love this game, love the content we put out. Let's win some money tonight.
Let's win some money. Yeah, absolutely. Watch this game shoot out like Detroit, Seattle. Would be a whole lot of fun. My name's Matt Savoca. You can follow me at Draftaholic. I'm here all the time on the Stokastic DFS channel, the Stokastic Fantasy Football channel as well. Give us a shout out and make sure to go over to No House Advantage. Check the link in the video description below. This should be a really fun one. The 49ers and Rams about to tee off here. We're all of us at Stokastic DFS. We're Matt. I'm Matt. We'll see you guys later.